you on the situation that we had today. I'm going to read a prepared statement, and then afterwards I will be taking questions to the best of my ability. Today, on Tuesday, March 12, 2019, at approximately 11:29 a.m., Kalamazoo public safety officers were dispatched to 167 East Kalamazoo on a report of a shooting inside the Biomat Center. A preliminary investigation indicates the first two arriving officers immediately entered the building with information there was an active shooter inside and encountered the suspect standing just inside the business. The suspect was armed with a handgun and opened fire on the officers. The officers returned fire. In the gunfire exchange, a Kalamazoo public safety officer was hit in the torso. The other officer continued to engage the suspect, striking him multiple times until other officers arrived. Upon officer arrival, the suspect was secured and life-saving measures began. The scene was secured and searched, and no other assailants were found in the building. The suspect did not survive. The officer who was struck by the suspect's bullets is a 2.5-year veteran of KDPS. He was saved today by his bulletproof vest and the quick reaction of his fellow officer. His injury was non-life-threatening, and he has been released from Bronson Hospital. The other officer is a 9-month employee for KDPS and did not sustain any injuries. The initial information and investigation indicates that the suspect was a Biomat Center employee. It appears that he entered the business with the intent to draw officers in and then ambush them upon entry. Even in Kalamazoo, we are not immune to workplace violence or violence directed towards our first responders. We are so very fortunate in this community to have such caring and highly skilled public safety officers. These are men and women who will run into gunfire. We are so blessed that all our officers, all the employees of Biomat and their customers are going home safe tonight to their families. I'd like to thank all those who came to our aid today, specifically Western Michigan University Police Department, Kalamazoo County Sheriff's Department, Kalamazoo Township Police Department, and Portage Public Safety, both for their assistance at the scene and helping us out on other calls for service within the city. We also are appreciative of the outpouring of support we have received from around the city and around the state. This investigation is going to be handled by the Michigan State Police, the KDPS Criminal Investigation Division, and the Office of Professional Standards. Upon its completion, it'll be forwarded for review to the Kalamazoo County Prosecutor, as is done in these type of incidents. Again, I just want to say how fortunate we are tonight. Everyone is going home safely after this incident. I will now take any questions that you may have.
What else can you tell us about the suspect? I know that you said that he was a former employee, and you believe that he went there with the intention of getting police there. Do you think this was a target on police or suicide by cop?
At this time, he was a current Biomat employee. Our early indication indicates that he wanted to draw officers to the scene to ambush them.
Do you have an age and city of residence for that?
I do not have a city of residence. He was approximately 30 years old. That's all the information we'll provide this time on the suspect.
How did he draw the officers to the scene?
Initially, he shot inside the building and told others that were there to call the police and waited for us to arrive.
Did he threaten any other employees or anyone inside?
You know, I don't have that information at the time. This is an unfolding investigation, and we are still interviewing, Michigan State Police is interviewing witnesses that were inside the business.
Has KDPS had any prior contact with the suspect?
Not that I'm aware of at this time.
And was there anything else left, like a note or anything indicating that he was trying to attack officers?
We have no information of that sort at this time.
Based on what you know now, did the officers act appropriately? Can you say if the shooting was justified at this time?
What I can say is the officers did what they're trained to do. It was an active shooter situation. They knew they had reports of someone inside that building and a shooter, and they went in as they're trained to do.
Do you know how many people were inside the building at the time?
I do not have that information.
Did he arrive to the business alone?
I do not have that information, can't release it at this time.
What is the security like, just for the public's knowledge, what is the security like at that facility, at that plasma center?
I'm not sure. It's a normal business. They do a lot of business there, and so I don't know what the security that they had set up other than normal interior, exterior security. Cameras is what I'm referring to.
Was this captured on camera?
We're reviewing all evidence at this point.
Chief, what weapon did the suspect have, and how many other weapons did he have? Did he have a duffel bag or other weapons on him? Was he prepared to go for the long haul?
So at this point, we know the suspect was armed with a handgun that he engaged with the officers, and I have no further information. That crime scene is still being processed as we speak.
Can you say how many officers returned fire and about or do you know how many shots were fired?
At this time, it's an ongoing investigation. I'd be premature to give you a number of shots fired. So far, we have 2 officers that were involved in engaging in gunfire with the suspect.
As far as other businesses in the area that had to kind of close down while the street was blocked, has that reopened, or people have to go back to business?
Yes, we have reopened those areas. We're able to contain that scene and process it from there.
How many times was the officer that was hit, how many times was he hit?
I'll just say he was hit multiple times at this point.
Okay, and could you just, sorry, could you just break down, so officers arrive on scene after they get the shots fired call, and then who fires first? How does that go down?
They immediately entered the building because it was an active shooter situation, as they're trained to do. They encountered gunfire and returned gunfire.
Can you explain anything about what might have happened between the time when I was told by someone that there was a shot fired, and then I guess I'm wondering what happened in between the time police were called and the time that the police actually got there. Was this person just inside? Was there anything going on that you know?
The suspect was waiting by the door for officers to arrive.
Do you know about how long might have elapsed? Was it just a couple minutes?
Less than 3 minutes.
And did the suspect say anything else?
Not that I'm aware of at this time. Like I said, it's an ongoing investigation. It happened just a few hours ago, so this is the most information I have right now.
I know some businesses were locked down, I don't know if this was addressed, but have those lockdowns been lifted?
Yes.
Forgive me if I'm missing anything, but it seems this is the first officer who was shot in line of duty since Officer Eric Zapata was killed. Have there been any others since then?
There's been no other KDPS officer
Yes,
shot in the
that's
line of duty. And we're very blessed for that.
There was a cruiser that rolled over on I-94, was on the way to the scene. Was it involved in all?
That was not involved. It was a coincidence of time.
Seems like that other officer, 6 months, you said?
8 months.
8 months on the job, less than a year. What do you have to say about the way that these officers reacted during this? I mean, this could have been much worse.
The officers did exactly as they were trained. They should be commended for following the training they're giving, following all protocol, and going into a situation that they knew there was an armed gunman. An 8-month employee, a 2.5-year employee, that just gives you an indication of how young this department is. And these are young officers out there, and they're willing to do this work. And we have difficulty finding officers. You all know that. We've been in the media saying that. This is an example, and it's also an example of the dedication these men and women have to this community and the work that they'll do under every circumstance.
Another example of how you all put your lives on the line every day, and how, unfortunately, there are some people that will target officers.
Absolutely. It's very unfortunate that that's the kind of world we live in now.
Do you plan to release the identification of the officers involved?
You know, that is something we'll handle. We're still processing through. The officers are being interviewed. This is a very sensitive subject. This is, a traumatic incident for them, and we'll work with them, and we'll decide at the time when that is right.
And are they now off duty?
So currently, there's a process we go through in this type of situation, and they have left for the day, and we'll work through the rest of the process until they're brought back to duty.
Are they on administrative leave?
They are not on administrative leave.
Will MSP have to conduct an investigation of their actions,
MSP will conduct the criminal investigation, and then we'll conduct the internal investigation that relates to our policies.
Just to be clear, were they the first ones there and just went in? Do they usually call for backup first?
So they were the first arriving officers, and they did as they were trained to do. They entered the building, and many other officers were en route to that scene.
Time for one more question.
Any more info on the motive that you can talk about?
I think the motive that I spoke to is the motive I spoke to.
One last thing about the officer's injuries. You said he's already home. Was it broken ribs, bruised ribs? How's he doing?
Yeah,
You know?
you know what? He's doing remarkably well, and that bulletproof vest saved his life. It stopped the bullets. So,
Is he dealing with a broken rib, or you can't go into
yeah. I'm not going to get into his medical injuries at this
That
point.
wasn't sure
Yeah,
how serious
HR will do something to me if I do that.
I
Okay?
just like to paint a better picture
Yeah,
of what-
yeah.
All the bullets hit his vest, though? Is it-
Yes, they did.
Okay.
Yes, they did.
Just to be clear about the employee, you said first he was an employee, but he is a current employee?
He was a current employee. He was a current employee at the time of the incident. All right. Anything else? Thank you very much. I appreciate you all coming out today, and I appreciate all the support from everyone in the community. Thank you.